This meeting is being live streamed. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
We are now live.
We are now live. Hello, all you live people out there. And all you dead people watching over their shoulders.
All of the dead people, yes.
All the dead people.
Oh, man. So today I am with Ahmadi Riverwolf. And we are talking about, or she is info dumping, about back in the day when she was working with autistic kids, helping them socialize through using D&D as a teaching tool. And I remembered when you told me about that years ago, I was really fascinated about the idea. And you had mentioned how helpful it was and how well the kids kind of adapted to it. And I wondered if you could speak to that a little.
Absolutely. The first thing that I will mention is the fact that, I mean, this was my baby a long time ago, but it has since been taken over by a very amazing therapeutic group called the Bodhana Group.
BODHANA group.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can find them on Facebook. And they have all sorts of wonderful activities, and their people are fantastic and wonderful. And anyway, sorry, there's a dog here. So every so often I'm going to look like I've got Tourette's because I'm talking
to nothing.
Yes, talking to absolutely nothing.
That's because Pippin is licking your elbows. I understand.
Yes, exactly.
And it is creepy.
Toes, or he's asking to go out.
He's very licky.
He's very licky. Yes, he's very licky. He's a Labrador and Border Collie.
Yeah.
Border Labrador. So he's did not get much of the brains of the Border Collie, but you know, work on it.
Hope springs eternal.
Hope springs eternal. Exactly. The other room now, sulking. But I worked as a therapeutic support specialist. I'll go all the way back now. First thing I started out with was being a substitute teacher. And when you're a substitute teacher and you will work with special needs children, the intermediate units will snatch you up quicker than a kindergartner with chocolate chip cookies. And so I worked with most of the special needs kids there. That was back in 2002. Right after when that schedule became a little bit too unpredictable, I went to being a teacher's aide again with special needs kids, mostly in high school. And from there, I decided to become a therapeutic support specialist. The therapeutic support specialists work with kids one-on-one, and they're basically kind of almost like a handler.
Okay.
For kids that are not that have behavioral, they're the first line of defense. If a kid has behavioral problems,
okay,
they're going to have meltdowns or they're going to get physical. The TSS is the first one who's in the way, or the first one to do the de-escalation techniques so that the kid can stay in a normal classroom.
Okay.
When No Child Left Behind was enacted in 2002. We abolished a lot of these special ed rooms. You remember from back in the 70s and 80s when we were kids, and all the kids that had special needs were all in the back room somewhere else. Well, that's no longer. All the kids are now integrated into our classrooms. As some of you who are mothers out there probably, and fathers out there probably know. So that's where TSS come into play.
Okay.
Because teachers have to handle 25 students. TSS have to handle 1.
Yeah.
Or at the most 2. So anyway. So that's where I started working with kids with autism. I prefer the kids with autism to those with behavioral difficulties, because these are kids that autism is a disorder. It's a different, it's a divergent way of thinking. Back in the day when I was doing this, we didn't have a lot of the neurodivergent terms that we do now.
Yeah.
So please forgive me if I'm going backward when it comes to terms and uses of pronouns and things like that.
Yeah.
It's as I'm accessing information that.
Well, and back in the day, like I was considered broken. I was hyper. I was diagnosed as hyper and medicated for 9 years. You know, autism is something that they usually threw you in the nut house for, because they, you know, I mean, you went there with, you know, all the Victorian kids that could not, that couldn't adapt to neurotypical standards, and neurotypicals got uncomfortable with them. So I just put them away.
Yes, exactly. Because I mean, neurotypical people, I mean, we as a country, we in America, Western European medicine has never been kind to people with mental illness,
No,
ever.
or handicaps, or physical handicaps.
Anything like that.
Yep.
And autism, you know, some people will say, well, autism just came about in the 1990s, in the 1980s. It was there were never autistic people before that. Bullshit.
Yep. They're trying to say the same thing about trans people. You know, neurodiversity has always been around.
Yes. It has just either been ignored, persecuted, or, you know, or in some respects, I mean, there are a lot of holy people that are out there that throughout the different cultures that have come about, that a lot of them are and were autistic.
Yeah.
But
and the neurotypical the neurodiverse trait help them get a deeper connection than, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The way that I've always described autistic people, mostly children, were that they see without filters. They feel without filters, which, I mean, imagine being having all of your filters taken away from you, having that raw, unabated information from all of your senses, all being able to come in. Now walk into a Walmart.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
That's
from my understanding is it is difficult for neurodiverse people to exist in the world without a variety of tools that keep them from being overwhelmed every 5 minutes, because neurotypicals seem to constantly need shit to distract them.
Yes.
You know, whereas those of us on the more neurodivergent end of the spectrum, we just want to have honest conversations with people. We don't want to obscure or obfuscate anything. We want to just, you know, I mean, the idea of political gamesmanship or anything like that literally makes my fucking skin crawl. Like, I want to have an honest conversation, and I don't think I'm wrong in assuming that most neurodivergent people are similar in that way. Just, you know, why can't you just tell me what you're feeling
It's like
instead of punishing me for that sort of thing?
Yeah. When I ask you, how are you?
Yeah.
I want to know how you are. Most neurotypicals want you to say, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And then go off with your day.
Yeah. And if you start getting detailed, the neurotypicals are like, dude, I didn't really care.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to, you know, I just was having conversation.
Yeah.
And
I was trying to be polite.
Neurodivergents are like, well, this is a conversation.
Exactly. And it's immensely frustrating that space isn't made for people who tell the truth on a regular basis.
Yes.
And who are vulnerable and open on a regular basis. Instead, people like us are seen as pussies, I guess, for the lack of a better term, because that's what it's for some reason, female genitalia have become synonymous with weakness. Whereas honestly, what can take a pounding and keep going? And what, so I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's getting into the weeds a little.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, we women have higher pain thresholds than men do. I mean, and typically neurodivergents have higher pain thresholds because we deal with more chronic pain.
Yeah, we have to, because society doesn't provide us with the tools that we need to survive without being in blinding, grating pain,
Mm-hmm.
without charging thousands of dollars a month for it, if there's anything that you can do already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're going into social situations with neurodivergency. That's where we kind of get into the what I started doing with with role playing and with Dungeons and Dragons. I had one client, I'm not going to name. We'll call him Ralph for right now. Ralph is not his real name, but he was diagnosed with what's called pervasive defiance disorder,
Mm-hmm.
which is on the autistic spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of those that would, sit down beside you, and when you started talking to him and trying to keep him on his tasks, he would look over at you and go, "Man, you need a breath mint. Go find a Tic Tac because your breath stinks."
Mm.
It's like, okay, Ralphie, we don't. And how do you and how do you like really explain to a kid who has no filters and has no? It's like, well, your breath stinks. You need a breath mint.
Yeah.
I can't sit next to you and have you talk to me because, well, I just want to keep going like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you to what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's rude. What do you mean it's rude? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's the way that I've always kind of described it was picture Star Trek
Uh-huh.
and Geordi LaForge trying to teach Data how to be human.
Ah.
That was more or less what a TSS or any kind of assistant,
Yeah.
an advocate.
I kind of want to pull away from the learn how to be human thing, because it's really teaching people how to flourish in a world that wants them dead. How do you flourish in a world that you make uncomfortable with what you say and what you do? How do you have conversation with people whose logic is just so bizarre to you that you can't follow it?
Well, and that's where role playing can kind of come in, because
Yeah.
role playing puts you in a safe space
Mm-hmm.
where you can learn these types of of skills, lack of a better term,
Yeah.
these types of skills in an environment where people are not being offended by how you are coming about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's so wonderful about these role-playing games. It's taking these kids, and I mean, you can even do this with young neurotypical kids.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who needs to be able to be in a social situation where they need to handle a variety of different things, and they may not know how to do it
Yeah.
because of youth inexperience, or because of neurodivergence, or because of stress, or because of being in a different culture.
Yeah.
I mean, this, going like this in England,
Yeah.
it's a no.
Yep. Yep.
While we're looking, while us over in America go, what? It's a peace sign.
Mm-hmm.
No. I nearly got kicked out of a bar. for that. A pub.
How 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 quickly did some of the kids that you worked with kind of find their footing socially when they started playing D&D?
Well, there's I'll do two different clients of mine.
Okay.
We'll say Ralphie and Stanley
Okay.
for the other one. Stanley was not as he was, I hate the term high functioning.
I do too.
But he was different. His diagnosis was different.
I'd like to actually change that to passing, like neurotypical passing instead of high functioning, because that's
Yeah.
what it means.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
that means you can run with the neurotypicals and they don't suspect you're among them, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But Stanley Ralphie, you could pass better
Okay.
than Stanley. Stanley was you could tell he was autistic.
Yeah.
He had the physical stims.
Yeah.
You know, I I remember one point in time explaining baseball to
Yeah.
Stanley.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because when you're there and you're explaining to a kid, it's like, yeah, you know, you hit the ball with a stick and then you run and then you touch the base and then you run again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then you begin to realize just how kind of stupid.
Oh,
Game.
it's everything is literally arbitrary. I mean,
But
it's you create this game
mhm,
and where uh people grab a football and run from one side of a field to another, or people grab another type of football and
mhm,
wear no padding and crash into each other and then go drinking afterwards, or you get a round orange ball and you bounce it up and down I mean
yeah,
it's
yeah,
I mean these are all feats of sports, but
mhm.
trying to explain it in a way that makes sense to somebody that has no frame of reference. I mean, like, can you understand cricket? Right?
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, to me, a cricket bat is a really cool weapon, but that's about it. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's, we get into the meat of the fact that depending on what culture and what kind of family life you have, things may have been explained differently as well, on top of
mhm,
autism.
yes. And interestingly enough, Ralphie came from a family that was huge into sports and all the different, manly things.
Yeah.
And Ralphie was just like, I don't want to do that. And
Go
so
Ralphie.
it very much it was poor Ralphie, because his younger brother, who was neurotypical,
Yeah.
was kind of a bit of the favored child, because especially by the father, who wanted a boy.
Because he wanted what he thought of as a boy. He wanted a neurotypical masking or a neurotypical boy.
Yes.
Yep.
And Ralphie was not into any of these types of things. Ralphie was into video games,
Mm-hmm.
drawing, and goodness, rabbits.
Mm.
He and I would work with rabbits together. Matter of fact, I gave him a couple of mine. But
Yeah.
anyway, all aside, but Ralphie was the one that very much responded to being to role playing games.
Mm-hmm.
He loved and the thing was is that with the way that I did it. Now I don't know exactly the way the Bodhana group does it now, but the way that I was doing it was that, I mean, we had the random dice.
Mm-hmm.
So, he would be in a situation and it would be like, okay, well, what, we would have to roll to see what would happen. So it would be a random thing of what this person would do.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't predict it. And so, but he could, so say, okay, you're in a shop. You go up to the shopkeeper. You ask the shopkeeper for a specific item.
Mm-hmm.
You see that he has the item behind him. And then we roll the dice.
Yeah.
The shopkeeper says you can't have the item. What do you do? And
Interesting.
so he's got to figure out what exactly is the best way of doing it. And so he would say, well, I point at the item and say, that you have that item right there. Well, why can't I have it?
Mm.
Well, that's, and then we would again roll the dice. What does the guy say? Because
Yeah.
you cannot predict, like in a video game,
Yeah.
what exactly the person is going to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is where we get into we do an allegory with real life,
Okay.
because you cannot predict exactly what somebody is going to say.
Yeah. And
So,
that can be terrifying for a lot of autistic people.
oh yeah, oh yes,
Yeah.
especially if you're in it, and again, you're in a safe space.
Yeah.
So in a safe space, you should be able to predict. He couldn't predict.
Yeah.
So therefore, he would, and he would start to escalate, and that's where I go into de-escalation. Go,
Yeah.
okay, this is a situation of what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you ought to be handling this?
Mm.
Well, and that's where he would have to take a step back and go, well, I could get upset and say, and yell at him
Mm-hmm.
that you have that item, say it's a sword.
Mm-hmm.
You have that sword right behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I have it?
Yeah.
Give it to me. Well, what do you think his response is going to be to something like that?
Yeah.
This is where we abandon the dice and we go into an actual therapeutic situation.
That's fantastic.
And it worked. Apparently, from what his mother told me, and this was his mother was an LPN at our local hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and I had thrown my back out, and I had to go to and I ended up in the ER, and
Mm-hmm.
she was my nurse, and she's like, "Hey, what are you?" Anyway, but all that aside, she told me then that the therapeutic role playing games that we did really really helped Ralphie in his in future situations where he had to navigate being social. And so
Yeah.
yes, they do work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really all about exercising your emotions, exercising your emotional control and your emotional adroitness,
Yeah,
and I would imagine that it's difficult to exercise that when people are telling you you're being inappropriate or that's too loud or so the
exactly.
safe place gives them a chance to kind of not so much in the moment but sort of in the moment in this created moment where
Mm-hmm.
they can explore the ways that they would react and what that would look like, and that's fantastic.
Exactly. It's like, okay, if you're going to be confrontational, do you choose to be confrontational with somebody? Because if in the real world, it's not going to be, it's what's going to happen if you're confrontational with somebody.
Yeah.
That's what, you get them to think, oh, okay, if I'm confrontational with him, what do I think is going to happen? Well, he could yell at me,
Mm-hmm.
or he could, and I'm like, well, are you going to get the item that you want if you are confrontational?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not going to get the item that I want. Okay, well, then let's see why is he not giving it to you? What do you have to give to him in order to get it?
Mm-hmm.
Or why is, what? And so, it's exploring a situation where the situation really doesn't exist.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, it was it was a really cool time period.
Yeah.
With Stanley. Stanley was he was a little bit more rigid in his thinking.
Mm-hmm.
He will always need somebody there to kind of help him out with social situations, but I think that a little bit of the role playing kind of gave him a little bit more food for thought. I mean, I don't really know, but it's all they say when you meet an autistic person, you meet one autistic person.
Yep.
And what I think getting at with that is that this type of role playing games don't work for all kids,
Yeah.
all people,
Yeah.
but it does work for those that that respond to it. And I wish that more therapeutic environments would employ social, instead of just, making these children sit down, shut up, don't move, don't stim, all the things that make you comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, you're not allowed to do right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of doing that to them and not explaining to them why
Mm-hmm.
and letting them process it.
Mm-hmm.
See, typicals process quickly
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
because we're taught from birth more or less how to respond in social situations.
Yeah.
Autistic children are delayed in that manner, and so, when they're put into a social situation, they've got to choose from the from pre-written scripts that they have in their heads how they're going to respond.
Yeah.
And so they have to process what was said, understand what was said, to comprehending, go through the different scripts, find the script that needs to be looked at for this particular situation,
Mm-hmm.
flip through the pages, find the right page with the right response, and then take it in and then vocally say it. And it may not be the script and they may have picked the wrong script.
Yeah. Or the person that is talking to them gets impatient and goes, well, and I would imagine that causes a cascade of, oh shit,
Oh,
Yeah.
that can, I mean, something as simple as that can cause meltdown behavior.
Yeah.
Meltdown behavior is not, because it's not a response to Pepe. Sorry.
Okay.
Meltdown response is not a reaction to not getting what they want.
Mm-hmm.
It is a response to overstimulation.
Mm.
And it is when all the elevator buttons are pushed,
Mm-hmm.
the elevator screeches to a halt, the alarm goes off.
Yeah. Yeah.
More or less what's going on. And as neurotypicals, though, neurotypicals will look at a situation like that and go, well, what spoiled brat kid,
Yeah.
isn't getting the toy, so therefore he's on the floor, pounding his fists bloody. No, the thing is that he can hear the electric lights and they're driving him crazy, and he can't articulate to his mother that it hurts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
I just,
So
go ahead.
do we have any questions from I don't see any from the crowd?
So far, I think we have one person watching, and I have received no questions, so it might be a slow day.
Okay. It's hot.
It's ridiculously hot.
It is ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
And therefore, I can understand it's a slow day.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
don't.
I'm fascinated with the idea of being able to practice emotional regulation in a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons that I'm doing the work that I'm doing with
Mm-hmm.
adults, and it's, man, it causes so much trauma and so much distress. And there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way of navigating the emotional and mental spectrum.
I agree. There's got to, I mean, we've got to have for lack of a better term, a bit of a coming to Jesus type of moment when it comes to dealing with mental health.
Yeah.
And it's been a slow process of,
It really has.
yeah. I mean, the stigma behind mental health and how we deal with it has been ongoing for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And we keep making baby steps toward it, but it's like it's always one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
When it comes to dealing with people. I mean, we've come along even since the times when I was a TSS back in the early 2000s and mid 2000s.
Yeah.
We've come a hell of a long way.
Oh yeah. It's really interesting to see modalities changing. And just it's been fascinating, the conversations around trauma that have come up in the last 15 years, and how pervasive it is throughout society, and how, I hear conversations about how we can integrate mind and body in
Yeah.
order to better navigate life,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yep.
But I just, it would be really great if the people for whom life seems effortless would shut the fuck up when it comes to autistic people trying to navigate the world.
Yes. I have to take you walking with me here for a moment because the dog needs to go up.
Oh no.
Okay. He was just going to be a pain in the ass. So.
No, I know. It is Pippin after all.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love him. I really do. He's a wonderful dog. But anyway. But yeah, I mean it's we have come a long way from back then when we just kind of just shoved everybody into one room, and it was just assumed that these kids couldn't read. It was assumed that kids couldn't speak.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've since found out through different methods of communication. By the way, iPads have revolutionized communication. Comes to kids with autism.
Yeah.
We used to have this thing called a pack. It was a booklet that they would wear around their neck, and it had all these little pictures and words and things on it, and Velcro that you used to put together to make sentences. Kids have an iPad that they just push buttons, and sentences come up.
Yeah.
And it has revolutionized some of these nonverbal kids.
Well, I remember years ago reading an article about Second Life, about how autistic folks had formed their own community on Second Life, and like crafted their in-body selves to have the tics and the appearance that they had in life. And the conversations that they would have with each other and with medical providers in the game, it just, and then before that, I remember hearing about an autistic girl that everybody thought was profoundly autistic, and they gave her a way to communicate, and she's fucking brilliant. I just, there is so much that we kind of steamroll when it doesn't fit our perception of what communication should be. And it messes with people's algorithms.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, because as we grow, we watch people around us react to the things that we say and we do. And,
Mhm.
you know, we kind of get an idea of what to expect. But when you run into people that don't act like that, all of a sudden you're in a new place, you know,
Mhm.
you have to account for different things.
I have also, one of the things that I've found in my travels and experiences when it comes to people, especially with people with autism,
Mhm.
is the art of active listening.
Mm.
To actually listen and give people your full focus. Because most of us, when we are having a conversation, we are merely waiting for the other person to stop talking so that we can reply
Yeah.
or say what's on our minds.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more dismissive feeling than having somebody, looking all around at all the different types of things while you're trying to have a conversation with them, and then rush into what they want to be saying,
Yeah.
or start talking about something completely and totally different because they're just not listening. Because when you've got people with autism, you have to you have to communicate with more than voice,
Yeah.
because these people are reading you like a book. They know when you're not listening to them,
Yeah.
and they also know you know when what they're when what the, when what you they are saying is meaningful to the person who is listening to them try to communicate.
Yeah.
And above all of that, if somebody is trying to talk to you and tell you something
Mhm.
and you are obviously not there, or not there mentally,
Yeah.
they're going to stop talking,
Yeah.
and you're not going to get you're not going to get that benefit of what they have to say.
Yeah.
And this is what causes miscommunications with everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if we would all just come to the table and just actually listen to each other, you know, just that, and make people feel validated and heard.
Yeah. And be curious about what the person is saying.
Exactly. Exactly. You want to know how much I learned about dinosaurs from some autistic kids, from some of my autistic, I mean, some of the names of dinosaurs that I've been pronouncing wrong since the 70s. But all that aside, I mean, it's just, and sometimes with some autistic kids, like I had one kid that their obsession in life was Chernobyl, the
Mm.
accident,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and he could talk your ear off about nuclear radiation and the effects it has on the human body, and the effects that it has on the environment, and the how long Pripyat, I think that's what the name of the town is,
Yeah. Pripyat.
and how
That sounds
long
right.
it's abandoned, and what the ecological growth has been around it. And he would talk, and if you really sit down and not think, oh my God, here he is going off about Chernobyl again, he's talking about is fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just sit and have a listen,
Yeah.
because these kids, I mean, when you've got them in a hyper focus, yeah, I mean, Stanley's hyper focus for a while were um the the age ratings for video games.
Yeah.
So for one, and it's funny because I had young kids at the time. I think my boys were maybe like 10 and 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, then I'll let himself back in. Okay. Um, he pushes on the door long enough, he'll open it.
Oh, good.
Anyway, yeah, except when you're trying to keep the air conditioning in.
Yeah.
But what was I just saying? Oh crap. I hate that.
Oh, I got distracted too. Sorry. Oh, I mean, we were pretty much, yeah, we were pretty much talking about paying attention to what people are saying. Bill,
hello. Hello. Yes.
you
Put your horse.
mentioned a kid that loved Chernobyl and
Yes.
talked about it a lot, and then started talking about something else.
Nope. Lost it.
No, damn it.
But
Pippin.
unfortunately, that's what happens. Yes. Hello, Pippin. Yes.
Yeah. Between the ADHD and the old
Mhm.
PD. Yeah.
Yeah. And the brain fog and all the other.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I,
All my brain cells are gone because like my gray hair is where my brain cells lived.
oh, I thought they all got with the. Oh my gosh. But oh, now I remember the Stanley and his obsession with the ratings
Oh,
for the.
yes, video games. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
I'm so happy we got back to that.
But he was so upset. Oh yeah, and my kids were young at the time.
Yeah.
Him being obsessive about these ratings for video games, I was able to take that knowledge and actually use it when my kids started playing, wanted a PS5 and or PS whatever it was back then. They're like, "Mommy, we want to play this game," and I'm like, "Oh no, that's a T for teen."
Aha.
They're like, "I don't know about T for teen." I'm like, "Oh, Mama knows."
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh my gosh! But he would talk about them, and he would actually draw the T's and the M's and the oh gosh, I forget the rest of them now, but he would just like actually take out pieces of construction paper and draw the symbols
Oh yeah. RX PG.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that interesting part with that. He also he he drew a wanted poster at one time. We were watching a documentary on Harriet Tubman.
Mm.
He drew the wanted poster for fugitive slaves
Yeah.
because it fascinated him that they would have
Yeah.
wanted posters for people who were being owned.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was a concept that he just could not wrap his mind around.
Yeah.
But these are the types of experiences where, man, where people where these kids just have so much to offer
Yeah.
and so much to make those of us that are not that far on the neurotypical spectrum
Yeah.
to think of. One of my favorite memories of Stanley was this is where we get into a little bit about spirituality as well.
Okay.
Um, we were walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden he starts to shuffle. He starts to dance like this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm wondering, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, Stanley. what's going on? Why are we dancing? What's the music? He goes, oh, Miss Holly, you can't hear the music. It's in my head.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, okay. I said, mind if I dance? He
Mhm.
goes, come on, dance with me. So we go and we bop it down the hallway and dance it down the hallway.
Mhm.
So one of his classmates comes up and goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, we're dancing.
Mhm.
To what? Music in our heads. Oh, okay. So this kid starts dancing.
Nice.
Before we are 3/4 of the way down the hallway, we've got like 9 kids dancing to the music in their heads down the
Nice.
hallway
Oh, that's fantastic.
on our way to class. And then
That's fantastic.
out and go and look again. They're like, well, what? Where's the music? Everybody's going, where's the music?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That makes
So
me happy.
it made me so freaking happy. And all I could think of was the stories of Coyote
Mhm.
and how Coyote would dance to the music of the corn sheaves moving
Mhm.
or the waves crashing.
Mhm.
And I remember, a time with my kids when we danced to the music of the dryer going around the living room. And it just reminded me this, like, this is the power of Coyote.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of this kind of circles around to. Coyote is adaptability and, learning how to look at a situation and figure it out how you are going to interact with it.
Mhm.
So, Coyote medicine is a one of the ways that I look at autism,
Mhm.
and is that you've got to be able to look at it from not your perspective,
Yeah.
and that is very hard for a lot of neurotypical people.
Yeah. It is.
Whew. And I am getting tired.
That is okay. I really want to thank you for coming on here and talking about this. It's been a really great time.
That's cool. And when we were first talking about me doing this, and I'm like, what am I going to talk about? What am I say? And I just found that it just kind of just rolls.
Yep,
And
it's just a conversation.
it is a conversation, and and hopefully people will get onto this on YouTube, and maybe it'll touch somebody some way. I'm not going to say people will learn something,
Yeah.
but maybe it'll influence. Who knows?
Go give Pippin pets for me and go say hi to the horses, okay?
I said I need to go mix feed. So I
Okay.
will talk to you all later.
All
Goodbye,
right. Thank
world.
you. Bye, everybody.